Welcome, everyone, to Laughter's the Best Medicine.
This is our show about remarkable people who've taken their experiences going through hardship and adversity, not just in their professional lives, but very often in their personal lives. But they've turned those experiences into triumph and incredible stories. One of the go-to tools for all of our guests when facing some of the biggest challenges was the ability to find humor in any situation, very often the most difficult ones they faced.
Proving laughter truly is the best medicine.
And that's why we're excited to have on our guest, Jay Fantom, the host of StoryBox. And this is a podcast that's gotten so much buzz in the past year. And not just because I think Jay's an incredible interviewer, but really seems to draw out the story so well from his guests, but also because he's 24. He started this podcast about a year ago, and he has booked some incredible names. People like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Gabby Reece, my friend Joel MacHale, and even Matthew McConaughey.
I heard his podcast. I was just truly blown away because how is this 24-year-old having so much confidence? He doesn't have decades of experience. I can't wait to talk to him.
Let's get to it. We're thrilled to have you. We've been talking again about just how impressive you are and how awesome StoryBox is. Susie was just saying it's unbelievable listening to your interviews.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
The thing that amazes me about you, Jay, and listening, I think one of the two words I hear from you very often that I think describe you are passionate and persistent. And what amazes me is listening to you interview people. You're so good. And when I found out you were 24, the thing that struck me is, were you born with this gift of conversation, or have you really had to work to develop your interview skills? Because I think you're natural. You sound naturally like one of the best interviewers I've heard on in any podcast.
Firstly, thank you for saying that. I'm humbled by actually that comment, because I don't think sometimes that I am a good interviewer. Like, I'll leave the interview and I'm like, well, that sucked. I'm never going to be interviewing again after that conversation that I've had. But honestly, honest to God, I wish I was born with this natural God-given talent to interview people. But I had to work extremely hard at actually being present and focused and trying to figure out, okay, what are the kind of questions that haven't been asked before? I was very curious as a kid, but I was also afraid to ask people questions because I was always afraid of what they might actually respond with. I thought, this question's dumb, so I'm not even going to bother asking this one. And I sort of over the years have learned to just remove that because there's no such thing as a dumb question. And my grandfather used to say to me, he's like, if you don't ask, you don't get. There's no such thing as a bad question. The only bad question is one you never really asked in the first place. To be honest with you, like when I first started the StoryBox, my very first conversation was with a friend of mine. It started with friends and family, and I was still nervous. It's like the moment you turn that camera on or the recorder on, it's almost like things just stop in real time. And you're like, okay, crap, now I've got to ask a question. Now what? So just sort of, I fumbled my way a lot through conversations, and I still managed to get something from someone sometimes. And it's just been this incredible experience and joy over this one 1 year and 5 month period so far, and I'm loving it as it keeps going.
It's amazing to think about when I read the statistic that you've interviewed over 400 people in a year, and some of the biggest names out there. And I'm just fascinated, not only your ability to learn this craft in such a short period of time, but also how you've been able to secure kind of basically the impossible, which everyone wants to know. Like, how do you get these people on your podcast at 24 years old? And 2 years ago, this didn't even exist.
Well, your guess is as good as mine. I wish I knew the secret formula, but to be honest with you, like, I never actually thought for a second that it would blow up the way that it has in such a short space of time. But I think it goes back to what Matt was saying. My two favorite words is passion and persistence. And I think persistence is the first one. And it's the honest to God key. If you really, really want something in life, you've got to be persistent at it. You've got to keep going. And no matter what comes your way, you just got to go for it. And that's what I had to do. Like in the very beginning, when I first started it and I had my first guests on, and I was like, okay, now I understand what this is going to be. I didn't really expect so many people to be saying yes to me at the start. And I don't think anyone really does when they start a company or even a podcast. It just, but I think people fell in love with the mission, and they saw how I was 23 at the time when I started, how a 23-year-old was, so keen on unboxing someone's story, and the passion behind and the emotion that I would share in like the mission and the vision behind the StoryBox. And I think people sort of resonated with that, and everyone's looking for, I believe, connection. And how do you get connection? It's through stories. It's through my story. It's through your story, Susan. It's through Matt's story. It's through other people's stories. So I didn't start off with a massive audience, and I still don't have a massive audience, but I was sort of, as I was going along, and I kept asking people, hey, do you want to be on the show? I kept getting back a few yeses, and I got a lot of no's as well. So it's a journey filled with a ton of rejection, more rejection than actually yeses, to be honest with you. I'll ask you guys a question. How many I sent over, I think over 4,000 emails in 2020 alone, which is a lot. Out of that 4,000, how many of that list do you think actually said yes to me?
I might know the answer to this because I've listened to your podcast, so I'm going to leave that up to it.
I mean, I'm guessing probably 800, 900.
I wish it was 900. It was actually, so 400 initially said yes to actually being a guest. And towards the end of 2020, I actually had 450 people that were that I had actually interviewed on the StoryBox. So, out of that 4,000 list, 450 probably said yes to being on the show at the end. So the actual amount of people at the end.
Okay, that's the secret, right? It's not the first email people go, yeah, I'd love to.
100% it's not the first email.
Okay.
So a lot of those emails that I did send out to people, most of them, they would say no to me, and I'll be just like, okay, you're saying no to me, so I'm going to contact you later on. So I kept a list in, it's my email list of people that I really wanted on the show. And I said to myself, okay, well, if you really want to do this full time and you really want this to be something, then you've got to be persistent at it. Like, it doesn't matter if someone says no to me now, it's probably not the right time. You don't know what's going on in their life or in their schedule that has led them to say no. And originally it was just starting out. So a podcast that is just, in its infancy, obviously, if you don't have a massive audience or you don't have a big name, then why would they trust you to be on your show in the first place? Why would they give up their time to be on your show? And that's one of the biggest questions that I sort of had to, get rid of in their mind is, okay, I need to show you this is why you should be on my show. I'm going to treat you with the respect that you deserve. I'm going to unbox things that no one has really asked you before, whether or not that is towards doing a ton of research about them, because I listen to a lot of podcasts myself. So I know that this guest that I was after, I know that they've probably been asked that question a million times over. So it's just kind of like on a repeat basis and a loop in their head, so they know what's coming. So if they did say yes, they ended up having a different experience to the other ones. It was a great experience, and I did that for a specific purpose, and that was their story has value more than they probably know, and I wanted them to share things that they've never shared before, but it can relate and connect with the audience member who's probably never heard that before in their life. That is the point of why I do what I do. It's to really get to the core, get to the heart of the person, and ask them things that are going to not only challenge, but they're going to inspire, motivate, educate, you name it. So I guess to answer your question, Susie, it's really just been this process of persistence, perseverance, overcoming a ton of rejection, my passion, as just being in the forefront all the time and going back to my vision and my mission from the very, very start and continuing on. Like, I'm not going to stop until, God tells me to stop, whenever that is.
Jay, so this is fascinating because, I totally agree. I think stories are such a wonderful way to connect. And I can see now, after 450 interviews, some of which include guys like Tony Robbins and Matthew McConaughey, I can hear the confidence and it's well-founded. But when you're starting out, where does this confidence come from, this persistence when you're 23, you don't have a ton of experience interviewing? Where did that inner fire drive? Because the reality is, I know a lot of people at home are thinking, well, I want something too. But when you hear no, to persist in the face of that. So where did this incredible confidence drive come from in you?
Well, I still, I still get nervous, believe it or not. Like, I had Rich Roll on my show not long ago, and I told him in the interview, I said, I'm nervous. And I'm hardly ever nervous now, but I need people to understand that ultimately you're a human being. You have flaws. You're not perfect. No one ever is. So this confidence that may seem like I have in the interview, for actual me in the interview, I'm probably petrified. I'm probably like shaking in my boots. I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to navigate this conversation? But really, I just come back to being as present as I possibly can. I need people to understand that we're all human beings. Doesn't matter what we have done or do in our life. When we remove all that, and it's what I have to do on a repeat basis when I get into an interview, it's just, we're all human. Go back to the element of being a human being. That's important. That's powerful. And that's what people need to realize. Like, I think we put a lot of celebrities on this high pedestal and say they're much better than us. And we've created that stigma around it. Like, and then so once we've created that stigma, we also create the fear. And we'll go, what are they going to think of me if I ask them the wrong question? It's like this expectation that we create in our mind. And that's what I've noticed when I first started doing interviews. When I first big guest, high profile guest, and I share this story on my show. I was in real estate in 2019. One name in particular that was thrown around a lot in the office. He was one of the top agents in the company. And I thought, I'm never going to be able to speak to this guy, not in a million years. He's too famous. I started hyping that up in my brain. Fast forward to me leaving the company and starting the StoryBox, I decided, hey, why not actually try and reach out to this guy? So I reached out to him on Instagram and he got back to me straight away. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. He's got 9,000 followers at the time. And I thought that was like, big and famous. And little did I realize you could actually get millions of followers. That goes to show you how naive I was. But I think it was that naivety behind it that sort of he realized, hey, this guy actually, he wants to do something. He's on a journey here, and I'm going to give this young guy a chance. So we organize a day. I get there. I'm shaking. I'm nervous. The whole works before I enter there because big and famous once again. His assistant walks out and she goes, "I apologize, Jay, but Matt's not here. Matt's down in Sydney, which is about an hour's and 45 minutes drive from where I came from." And he had completely forgotten about it. And that goes to show me, okay, make sure that you confirm before. There was the lesson right there. And she goes, "Here is Matt's phone number. Give him a call and try and organize another time." I was like stuck. I'm like, what am I going to say to this guy? And so I've phoned him. He's answered, and he's like this beaming. He's got his great voice. It's very deep. And I was just like, "Hi, Matt." And he goes, "Jay, I'm so sorry. Can we organize a time if you want in the next hour to come down to Sydney and we'll meet you somewhere in the park?" I said, "Done." And I was like, okay, if I really, really want this, I need to make the commitment here that I had made originally in the very beginning of doing whatever it takes. I'm not going to give up. And that's when I left that day. I was like, okay, this is it. This is the job this is the calling that I know that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life or however long I'm here. That for me changed it all. It was like the catalyst moment for me where I realized that stories matter. And human beings, we've all got one. So we need to make sure that they understand that they have worth no matter what they have done in their life. Who they are is more important than what they've done. And I hope that answered your question.
What I also heard in that story was your ability to commit to yourself and really wholly say, this is what I want to do, and I'm willing to do it at any cost because I know it's the right thing.
That's what I talk about as well. Like, I would not be doing this if I wasn't aligned with my own purpose. It's to help others realize their worth and help them reach their greatest potential, whatever that is in their life. I think we are living in a world where it's plagued with unbelief. It's plagued with people not knowing their worth, not knowing their purpose in the world, and they're lost. So if I can give them a sense of direction or give them a map or a compass to sort of guide them to that, then I will do whatever it takes, because that's what I believe God put me on this earth to do. And I think purpose is such a big topic of conversation. And I realized, why was I conditioned to believe that my purpose or my worth was associated with what I was doing rather than who I was? And that's when I realized we need to start distinguishing between I am versus I do. You were created with a purpose. Who you are right now, that has value. It doesn't matter where you are in your life or who you are right now. You were created and designed with a purpose. And you saying that you weren't is basically throwing your face and throwing a slap at the creator and saying, hey, I don't value what you created. And honestly, if I used to do that, and I didn't understand at the time, I was just angry and frustrated and not happy. And I was angry more at myself, but then that translated to me being angry at the one that created me. And I regret that now, because it didn't lead me to anywhere good. And I'm like, why was I in that? I understand where my mindset was at the time, but that didn't serve me well. So if we can understand that, or if we can realize that the things in our life, they're leading us to the best possible things. Like, we just got to be patient enough and wait on them to happen. Like, stop going so far ahead and understand, stop. You're going to get there eventually. Understand that the moment you get ahead of yourself, you'll get in this trap. Focus on who you are right now, building that up, building yourself up. Then that thing that you've wanted all your life, like, I never thought that I'd be doing this. I never thought that I'd be speaking to you today and sharing my story. I never thought I'd be doing this. I never thought for a second that I was good enough. But all those negative thoughts of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, that's not going to serve anyone well. And if we can just learn to stop and refocus, readjust, and realign with you are enough right now. That's the most important message that we can send to people, because then we understand that we are enough. That then builds confidence. That then enables people to go further and become the person they were always meant to be.
I love that. And I hope people heard that. You are enough. People can't hear that enough, because I know I've struggled with feeling like I'm not enough, feeling like I'm not worthy, especially because so often we judge ourselves by our achievements. The thing I love is how you're taking your purpose, you're learning from everyone you interview. And I'm fascinated, because I think there's so many people listening who might not ever have a podcast, but everybody's thinking of a conversation right now they want to have with someone, with a loved one, with someone who they're in conflict with a parent, with a child. As I've heard you talk about how you go through these interviews, how you make these conversations so productive, I hear you talk about all the research you do. I hear you talk about, obviously, being present. So for people at home who are thinking, how can I have better conversations? What advice would you share that you've learned over 450 interviews?
Listen. And listening isn't just about, what goes in the ears. Listening is the eyes. Listening is your body language. Listening is being present 100% in the moment and reacting naturally to what the person is saying. And it's not going, your brain's not going off with the fairies and thinking of other things, which is very easy to actually happen in today's day and age with so many distractions all around us. I mean, we've got phones, we've got computers, we've got message boards all over the place. You've got so much material that is all in front of us. And it's almost like, okay, well, how can I be present now? It's almost like it's a real struggle. So how you have a better conversation with someone, number one, be present. Number two, ask a ton of questions. Doesn't matter what it is, just ask it. And number three, which is my favorite one, understand that laughter, be happy, just smile. That's all you need to do. Like, your energy will reflect on the other person as well. So if you're like all down in the dumps and not feeling too good, then that's going to reflect on them. They're going to feed off that energy. So therefore the conversation isn't going to be that great. So laugh with them. Even if it's, you're like, what are you laughing at? Like, just, it doesn't matter. Just laugh, like smile.
That's why I love Susie. Jay. She's one of the greatest laughers you'll ever meet. I'm a comedian, so that is oxygen to me.
Exactly. So you guys know that feeding off each other, the energy that you have, the joy that you both share with being amongst each other and being in each other's company, that's important. That's part of having a good conversation.
Yeah.
And I think we've missed that somehow in today's society because it's all about that quick, I've got no time for you. I don't have, like, all this stuff. Just, the thing I love about the StoryBox and what I'm grateful about is the people that actually give me time, like enough time. Because, you know, you got sometimes the 30 minutes or I only get a short period of time with them, which I am still grateful for. But the best conversations that I've ever had with people are the ones where I was present enough, I didn't have distractions all around me, and I got vulnerable as well. Like when both of us just started like feeding off each other's energy and each other's stories, like I can relate to you. And the thing I love about my story is that I can relate to so many people's stories. And I've been through like hell and back, and I've gone, well, when I first went through all that, I was like, why did I go through it? Now when I'm doing this, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense now, you know? And I'm instead of saying, oh, woe is me, I'm saying, thank you, God, for allowing me to go through all that, because now I'm so much better for it. Now the conversations that I can have with people, they're going to help them. I hope it's going to help them, because then when we get vulnerable, when we laugh, then we ask questions, then when we're looking at them properly in the eyes, if it's a bit hard to resume, but still, you know, like, but once again, like when we do that, and then ultimately we understand that we're all human beings at the end of the day, we all stuff up. If you don't know what question to ask and you're in stunned silence and you're just working your way around it, you know, there was a preacher that actually said to me, he's like, if you get stuck or lost in your sermon, go back to the cross. And he's like, just start preaching about Jesus. And I'm like, okay, well, what are my pinpoints when I get stuck? Okay, I'm going to start talking about my little bit of my bad day, or, you know, just picking things up that you never know what can happen as a result of doing that. So that would be my advice on having it. I'm not an expert on having great conversations. Let me just say that. I'm no Larry King. I'm no Oprah. I'm no, you know, some of those famous people that we look up to in terms of having these great conversations.
Yet is the importance, Jay, right?
Yes, there you go. You corrected me. I love it. Like, you know, I'm just Jay. You know, I'm Jay that loves having conversations with people. I love laughing. I love getting vulnerable, and sharing things that, you know, it might be hurtful in the moment, but still, I've got to bring it back to living in my purpose. And when you do that, then the best things happen for you and for everyone.
Jay, you've alluded to in this conversation, and I know prior we've had, peeling back the curtain a little bit, we've had some conversations about I had 3 heart surgeries. And you've alluded to struggling with some of your own dark times. I'm wondering if you would be willing to share one of those experiences that you feel that has shaped your life now and how that's impacted the StoryBox.
Well, I can even share something that is happening right now. Actually, it's fairly recent. So I have been doing everything that I possibly can with my health to keep it great. I have been, the diet's changing. I'm trying to get enough sleep. I'm meditation, exercise. The whole bit. But sometimes you can't. You just can't plan for unexpected things to come in your way in terms of your health. And recently, like the last 4 or 5 weeks, I noticed that I wasn't sleeping properly. I was getting night sweats. I was having pain in my kidneys. I was tired. I didn't have the energy that I used to have anymore. And I thought this is a bit weird. I was getting body aches and pains. I wasn't recovering properly. I was not as motivated as what I was. And I'm thinking, well, I'm usually a motivated guy. I find inspiration in whatever I do, but I found myself having these really, really tough days, and I would get tired very, very quickly. So I went to see a doctor and I had a blood test, and the blood test came back and it shocked me. It was like my creatinine, which is for my kidneys, was 131. Now, average is around 80 something. So it's skyrocketed. And the last time it did that was when I was 13. So it was years ago now. And then my urea as well. So it talks about how the kidneys will flush out all your fluids, but my kidneys were dehydrated, and my results were showing that. And I thought, how in the world can that be? I'm drinking a ton of water. It's got electrolytes in it. I'm doing whatever I can. What's going on? It's unexplained. And I always say as well that I love giving doctors things that they can't really explain. Outside of the textbook thing, I swear they can write a book about all the things that I've gone through, and then they can use that in their medical practice. They say use the illustrations from Jay and what he's gone through, and trying to figure out how you can diagnose him with something, because that's what's been literally my life with all the health stuff that I've been through. But this was another thing. It was another wake up call, and then all of a sudden, last week actually, I was flat on my back, so I could hardly get out of bed. The night sweats were getting worse. Feeling a lot more pain in my kidneys. I couldn't exercise. Now, me not being able to exercise is saying something, because sometimes, like, I will push myself. Like I had meningococcal that day, actually, I went and exercised for over 2 hours, and then went in hospital later that night. And I was feeling terrible in the morning when I was exercising. So that goes to show you, sometimes I do dumb things and I go beyond when I shouldn't. But when I couldn't get out of bed, and I was just like, okay, what am I going to do with this? So I went to see my specialist, and he can't explain it. And still right now, I'm having tests done that they can't explain what's going on with my kidneys. I'm not worried though at all. It's sort of everything that I've been through, it's all for a reason. And what I'm going through now is all for a reason too. But this is starting to shape me. Okay, Jay, you're not invincible. You're not, you can't make plans. You can do everything under the sun to better yourself and do the very best that you can, but sometimes, you can't. And what happens is, when the unexpected things come into our life, how are we going to react to them? Are we going to fall flat on our face and mentally just go, woe is me again? Or are we going to say, no, I'm going to rise above it? And I say that I'm the eagle. I soar above the heavens. That's what I was created to do.
What else you're also saying, Jay, that I'm hearing from you too, is that sometimes you just got to love the pain. Right? Yeah. Because it's teaching you the lessons in life. And in your story, is so relatable to so many people because we're all going through challenges and we're all struggling and we're all in pain. But the bottom line is that we get a choice whether or not we want to suffer or not.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about is I'm choosing not to do that. I'm choosing to have hope. I'm choosing to find mission and purpose in what I'm doing. And it's just so inspiring to be sitting here. And Matt and I feel really honored to have this time with you and to know you as a human, and for you just to light us all up with all of your optimism and joy and your positivity, given everything you've been through, is really incredible.
What amazes me, I'm hearing you're very spiritual, very religious, and it sounds like even as you're going through health issues now, your faith is strong. Were there times where your faith has been tested and you thought, oh my goodness, maybe not today, Lord?
Oh, 100%. So I used to think that, I was very religious. I did the religion thing of going to church every single day and, going through all the motions. And because that's what I was brought up with. That's what I was taught. You've got to do this. You've got to go to church on Sunday, whatever. And it wasn't like I had my own faith in God anymore. Like I had, that's probably not the right way to say it. I didn't have the right relationship with God. There we go. That's a better way of saying it, because I was just going through the motions. It wasn't real enough for me. And, I just became very, very religious. But now what I say to people all the time is I'm not religious. I'm in a relationship I'm spiritual. I went through a moment where I was like, okay, God, if you are real, then I need you to show me what's next. I need you to reveal yourself to me. I need you to give me the faith to believe that you are going to take care of me, because I didn't have any. I just lost it all. And he did. He showed me. It was the point when I went through a moment where I was like, okay, God, if you are real, then I need you to show me what's next. I need you to reveal yourself to me. I need you to give me the faith to believe that you are going to take care of me, because I didn't have any. I just lost it all. And he did. He showed me. It was the point when I talk about it and I open up in my book. It's a very hard thing for me to revisit, but I just given up. So I wanted to end my life, and I attempted suicide. So one day going home, I was driving down the road and and I just decided, okay, I'm going to aim for the nearest telegraph pole. And I went 130, 140 kilometers thereabouts, straight for the nearest telegraph pole. It's a long road, but at the end I knew there was a telegraph pole and I was going straight for it. So there was no one else. Strangely, there's no one else on the road in behind me, in front of me, or beside me, which I thought was really weird at the time. But I went straight for this telegraph pole, and I took my hands off the wheel, took my hands off the accelerator as well, and just let the car glide. There wasn't that much room left, and when you're going that fast, it's you're heading straight for impact. But then all of a sudden, I noticed the steering wheel just turn away. Normally I was in the far left-hand lane, so normally when the steering wheel you're in the far left-hand lane, it goes left. It just turns left, but the steering wheel was turning right, and I thought, this is weird. So the car went away from the telegraph pole, and all of a sudden I feel my car stops. I didn't even feel my foot go on the brake. So I've got to a complete stop. I didn't even have the radio on at the time either. I was in complete silence, just ready to just end it all. I come to a complete stop in the middle of the road. My hazard lights turn on, and I start bawling. I'm lost. And then that's in the moment I turn on the radio and this song comes on that means so much to me. It's by Third Day. It's I Need a Miracle. And right then and there, I pour my heart out to God and I say, God, I need you to give me a miracle here. I need you to show up in my life in a big way. I need you to transform me. And he had saved my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I really believe that he actually, angels, whatever you want to believe, he guided that car away from the telegraph pole and said, "No, you're not done yet. I don't want you to go. I want you to be alive, and I want you to fulfill my purpose for you." And even though I didn't know it then, he gave me this sense of peace inside when I went home. Now, my life didn't radically transform or change in a huge way the next day. I still went back to work, but my attitude changed. Now, my mindset was changing too, of my life now has a calling and a purpose now. Now I have the faith that I need to move forward. I believe in God, and he's going to take care of me. He started blessing everything that I was putting my hand to. And despite the challenges that were going on in that job, I still remained strong in my faith and my belief that he was going to take care of me. And when I left, he still took care of me again. I didn't have money. I was in debt. I was struggling a lot still. I had this massive opportunity present in front of me. And it was like God was challenging me in that moment. Is like, okay, well, Jay, I'm going to give you this very enticing deal, and you're going to, I have no doubt you're going to excel at it and do very, very well and a great amount of money. But I've got something else planned for you. I'm not going to reveal it just yet, but I'm going to give you a hint of it. So I'm in this
He's
job.
Playing Let's Make a Deal with you.
He's let's make a deal.
This car, or what's curtain number 2, Jay? Oh Lord, I don't know what to. I'm going to go with curtain 2.
It's like, which briefcase do you want, right? Like, so, and I'm in this job interview, right? And I'm not expecting this question to even come up, but I'm sitting with the CEO of this company, and he asked me this one question. He goes, "Jay, why do you want to work here?" And I've gone straight away, I want to help people. And sure enough, that was true. I wanted to help people get a job. But then when I went home, I thought that's when God was doing his working. He's like, "Jay, there's something more to life than just helping someone get a job or get a house. There's more to it than that." And that's when I realized stories matter. Your life matters, Jay. Everything. It was like this light bulb moment went off in my head. I had peace about me. I had all these crazy things that have happened in my life come flashing back before me. And I was like, that's it. I don't know what it's going to look like next. I had a slight idea. I was like, podcast maybe. Let's bring it back. But no way did I know that it was going to be this. But it goes back to if my faith wasn't challenged, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't be here today telling you this story.
And helping so many people. There's 1 in 4 people right now that are struggling with mental health issues around the world. We've all been through this global trauma. So for you sharing your story and talking about hope and faith is really going to help so many people. And I know there's so many young people that are looking up to you right now, and just hopefully inspiring for them to make a different decision and to get the support and help that they need right now. So thank you so much for being an advocate and sharing your story with us and letting us unbox your story right now too.
You're more than welcome. And I don't want, for people listening that don't believe in God or anything like that, I don't want to say that's not okay. It's not my job to come on and, belittle anyone's belief systems. It's not my job to do any of that. It's not my job to force Jesus or anything like that down anyone's throat. I don't want to do that. Like I share my story, and I'm appreciative of everyone that gives me the chance to do that. And because I wouldn't be here, like I said before, I wouldn't be here without him, so I'm grateful for any opportunity that I can get to share his truth. It's not mine. It's his. He's given me the ability to be here and to share it. And I love that.
By the way, I think I understand now where your confidence, your persistence early on comes from. When you have an experience like that, where you feel like this isn't about me, there is something higher with this. And I think it comes through too in the interviews that you are seeking a higher truth, whatever it is, a higher connection. But You've now done over 450 interviews with some amazing people. I have to imagine that some of these conversations have touched you. Is there one or a few that really stand out that impacted you? And if so, what were those lessons that you learned?
There's been a couple, and now it's been well over, I think, 500 and
Susie, we really got to get hustling here because we're way behind.
I'm taking a lot of notes here. So.
It's crazy, trust me. And sometimes I'm like, how do I keep up with myself? But the conversations that have meant the most to me, I recently had one actually today, and her story is crazier than mine. Actually, she was sex trafficked by her own family, like by her parents.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a wild story, and I kind of wrestled for quite a while, wanting to have the conversation with her because I knew it was going to be challenging, and I knew that it would. I wanted to be respectful of her story 100%. So I wanted to know if I could ask the right kinds of questions, what questions would trigger, hurt wounds, you name it. And I just felt like when I did send the email, I just thought, okay, I'm going to let it be. Whatever, if it's meant to be, it will be. And she came back to me about a couple months later, actually, and I'd forgotten about it. And she says, Jay, I want to be on the show, and I want to share my story. So we organized a time, and that was for today. And I didn't plan any questions. I just went in and was as present as I possibly could, and felt through her responses. It was a very challenging, powerful conversation that I cannot wait to share, because she's giving back. She's doing amazing things for people out there in the world that are struggling with their own mental health issues. I mean, Susie, you were saying 1 in 4 people. I mean, that's in comparison, that's millions of people around the world. Just put that into perspective. Millions of people are going through mental health problems, and this young lady who went through absolutely crazy amounts of abuse is now giving back. She's now sharing her story. She's now getting vulnerable. So that for me meant the world. And her and I, we just had this moment in the conversation where it was special. And there's another one where very similar to, I love the kind of stories of resilience and overcoming traumas and all that sort of stuff, because I feel like that's what we all go through every single day. So one of my most powerful conversations that I love, and she's a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor. She went through absolutely the craziest time in history, and she survived, and she became a doctor. She's a psychologist, and she's thriving too. She's 94 years old. She's one of the happiest and the most joy-filled ladies I've ever had the privilege of speaking to. She's getting a lot more attention now, which I believe her story should be getting more attention surrounding it. She was on, I believe it was Gwyneth Paltrow's podcast. She was on Brene Brown's. She was on Russell Brand's, Lewis Howes, all these high-profile names, and rightfully so. But she gave me her time, and I love that about her. She's so willing to say yes and show up. And then during the conversation, I shared something with her that I'd never shared on any podcast to really anyone outside of my own family, which was sexual abuse that I experienced when I was 6 years old. And I was surprised at her response. It was different. She goes, I didn't want to take away from her story at all, but she goes, when you experienced that as a 6-year-old, your childhood ended. And she was right. She couldn't have been more right. And I realized in that moment, everything that I had been through, it all had a pattern behind it. It all stemmed from when I was 6, when all that stuff happened. it was the body remembers, the body keeps a score. So all the depression, all the anxiety, all the panic attacks, everything that I had experienced all throughout my life, they were all part of when I was 6. And her just speaking with me and her helping me through that. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment that someone can go through the worst atrocity known to man and still have the care and the heart to be present enough to say that in the conversation and still, you know, show up the way that she did. And I'll forever cherish that one.
How about the one that made you laugh the most?
The one so yesterday, actually, I had a even funnier conversation. So this actor guy, him and I were going back and forth. We had this great banter and we couldn't stop laughing because, you know, we related on the fact that I'm the middle kid, he's the middle child. So we're talking about the fact that, you know, middle kids seek attention. We're always the creative ones in the family. So we're like the outcasts of the family, yet we're the middle one. And I was saying to him during the conversation as well, I've got this up on my brothers. I say, I was the planned one in the family. And then he goes, I wasn't planned. And all my siblings were. So they got that over me. And it was like this funny banter. I couldn't stop laughing. And then I asked him the question, what do you love the most about yourself? And he goes, I love my laugh. And then the whole conversation, I kid you not, was just him and I laughing all the time.
You know what, Jay? I'm so glad to hear you laughing. And we've been laughing throughout this. And, you know, we call this laughter is the best medicine. But you've clearly had some incredibly heavy conversations with people. How do you release that when you're done with the podcast? What do you do to make sure, wow, I was there, I was present, we connected, but there's some heavy emotions. How do you get those out?
I eat ice cream.
Damn it. I wish. I'm craving ice cream. I'm trying not to. Really? That's your secret? Is it just like a little indulgence?
Lots and lots and lots of ice cream. No, I'm just kidding. What do I do?
Or do you?
I have a time of reflection, I think. I mull over those words, and if I do feel like I can't handle it, I'll go and pass it on to someone else. Whether it be my poor mum, she'll be like, wow, no way, you actually experienced that in a conversation. I'm like, yep. You feel for me now? Like I had to navigate through it. Or it'll just be, you know, like I said, it wasn't a joke. I'll have my treat every now and then. And that sort of like is a release, and I love it. Like, I mean, who doesn't love ice cream? I have Ben and Jerry's ice cream, like favorite. I'm a huge sucker for cookie dough, and I'll go and buy.
My mouth is watering right now. Oh my God.
Peanut butter too, far out. Like it's so bad, but yet it's so good. Like I'll also go, I have a friend of mine that runs a thick New York style thick cookies, massive, massive cookies, best things that I've tried in my life. I kid you not. And I'll go and get like a box of those and bring them home and just have maybe 2 or 3. Every once in a while. My dad hates it because he's trying to be good, and yet here I am sort of in teasing him and saying, here we go, here's all the food. Like, you know, you got to have strength to resist it, but I'm the devil's advocate in that respect.
Cookies do not have a long lifespan in my house.
No. Why would they? You know, like you can't resist a cookie, especially a New York style one. But yeah, that's what I do to sort of unwind and release from the tougher conversations, or, you know, I'll just talk to myself. Is that weird? I'll just have a conversation with myself. I like that sometimes. I think I'll ask myself some questions like, so Jay, what did you learn? And then I'll respond to myself at times. Maybe that's just
the power of questions.
Yeah, amazing.
We're always asking ourselves questions. It's good to consciously choose those questions, right?
Yeah. I think you guys are like, oh, this guy's weird now. Why do I have him
Not at all.
on?
Honestly, I think that's something that I've become attuned to is we are always asking ourselves questions, whether we're conscious of it or not. And when you start directing those questions, I think, to trying to be more productive questions, I see a real, God, it's just that's how you change your life. But it's amazing to me to hear your, not just your religious, your spirituality, but to hear you really take an active control of mindset of your thought process. I know you spoke with Tony Robbins, but so much of I think I see you being so proactive in your mental health. And was that something learned following your suicide attempt, or have you always been conscious of how you spoke to yourself, I guess?
It's been this process over time in my life where I haven't actually spoken to myself quite positively. And, that's to my shame. Well, not to my shame really, but to my detriment, I should say. I should have realized earlier the power of actually speaking to oneself in a negative tone. And because what you say, the more times you say it, the more you start believing in it. And the belief is a lot harder to get rid of than it is when you actually have just a thought and a negative thought that comes into your mind. So I think trapping that and getting rid of it, I needed to learn over time. But, when I was in hospital in 2017, I realized a powerful philosophy that I carry through in my life today, looking at my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, and my emotional health. And I was sitting in the hospital chair right next to the window, and I stayed up the whole night, and I was waiting for the sun to rise. And it was like this moment of pure poetry when the sun rose, and I immediately thought, well, if I can beat the sun, then no matter what comes my way during the day, I can beat that too. So I was setting myself up for positive reinforcement of waking up when persistently telling myself, okay, Jay, what are you going to do today that is going to increase your learning, increase your growth, make you better? And that comes with, waking up early and, praying, reading something, listening to a podcast, you name it, spending time with God, doing that. That's my spiritual practice. And then I leave the house. I got another podcast in my ears, and I'm listening and I'm absorbing more information from someone that knows a lot more than what I do, because I don't know everything. And I love that process of learning right before the sun has even risen. And then when I'm finished exercising, I've done 3 things already. I've meditated on God's word, I've prayed, I have exercised, and I'm also growing my capacity to learn from the podcast that I'm listening to. And then when the sun has risen, I feel 10 times better. That my mental state is like, you did it today. Now you can go on and conquer whatever comes your way during that day. And I haven't been the best at that in terms of, 2019 when the craziness happened then, and, experiences and circumstances in your life that do challenge you, they will challenge that mental state and that resilience and that thing that you have, that habits that you've set up for yourself. So mentally, it's been this long process. I'm getting a lot better at it now, that when challenges do come my way, that I'll stop it from becoming a belief, and I'll say, it's okay to go through this challenge. It doesn't make me any less than who I am. I need to still focus on my mental health, making sure that I am doing whatever I can to positively benefit my brain and my mind, and keeping that locked and make sure it's secure and safe. And then also my physical health, because I notice when my physical health lingers, then my spiritual health lingers, and vice versa. So it's this balance that you're trying to create for yourself, and it's this balance won't come every single day. Let me just say that balance is a process every day that you've got to work on. Not many people want to work on their mental health or their emotional health, you know, but you've got to do it if you really, really want to improve. And that's the beautiful thing about life is you never stop learning, you never stop growing. If the problem is the moment people do stop, that's when depression sets in, that's when anxiety sets in, and that's when the feeling of I'm not enough sets in. So make sure that you are, if you don't like what I do, then find what works for you. It could be journaling, it could be reading books, it could be, you know, if you don't like exercising, then, you know, stretch, do something that gets your body moving. You know, people talk about it all the time, but it's very, very true. So hopefully that answered your question, Matt.
Oh yeah, but I also feel like you were a messenger sent here to remind me just to seek balance. I'm like, I get it, God. I hear you. Okay.
So Matt and I, we've enjoyed so much of our time with you and just learning so much from you. And this has just been so fantastic on so many levels. And we feel like we've learned so much. But at the end of each of our podcasts, we have a rapid fire question round. I'm wondering if you're game to do it with us.
Of course, let's do it.
Okay. So my first question is, what is your favorite word and why?
It's persistence. And I think after speaking about everything today, you can probably have a guess to why. Without persistence, it comes with my saying, be persistent to remain consistent are the things that you want in your life. If you really, really want it in your life, be persistent at it. And then you'll forever remain consistent and getting the things that you really want in your life.
All right. So I know you're an unbelievable storyteller. You're very visual with your words. I hear you painting images. And I know at one point you thought about being a filmmaker. And I hear there are stories within you. So if you were going to make a movie today, what would it be about and why? What story would you tell with that movie?
Oh, that is such a hard question. There's so many stories that I want to actually tell. I'm a huge sucker for romantic dramas. I love that medium because maybe it's because my relationships haven't been exactly the best over my lifetime. Maybe I just love the drama that comes with relationships. Who knows? But I think I would make a movie and tell a story that is not only it's real. I love real stories. So I try and pick something that has happened to someone that is true to life, that they've been through an emotional roller coaster with their faith, their health, their relationships, and they've been able to overcome it. I think I titled it The Path of an Eagle. Who knows? Go off my book title, but I'd love to see if I can do that because it's very hard. I'm not a huge fan of action movies, although sometimes I like them when I'm not feeling like thinking a lot. But I love drama, I love mystery, love that sort of stuff. So I hope that has helped answer that question, but it's such a difficult question to actually answer. Straight off the top of my head.
I have a feeling we'll see a movie from you someday.
Exactly. A documentary.
Oh, wow. That would be crazy.
Yeah. I know this is supposed to be our rapid fire question round, but you did mention that you have a book. And I also want to say what you've done 450 interviews and then you have a book. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I have one book that it's currently in a copy edit stage of the process of editing a book. It's a very, very, I didn't know how difficult it actually be to get to this process, let alone the process moving forward and actually getting the book out there into the world. It's crazy. But I wrote the book. It's called The Path of an Eagle, and it's a book about hope. It's a book about love. It's a book about challenges, loss, grief, addictions, abuse, hate. But it's also about finding purpose. It's also about finding who you are as an individual. It's about giving strategies. It's giving tools, lessons, everything, if you think of the craziest stuff, it's probably in the book because my life is literally that crazy. I didn't really even scratch the surface of it. But ultimately, I want this book to help people. That's why I do what I do with the podcast. That's why I decided to write the book. And because to be honest with you, I never thought that I would be a writer in terms of, or an author really, in bringing out a book. I'm like, who would want to read the story of a 24-year-old, But that was just, once again, the negative coming through and me not believing that my story mattered. And when I removed that, now it's become everyone's story matters. Now you can show, and I say this in the book as well, if you have a story to share, why hold back? If you believe that you never know if your story is going to help someone or not, you just don't know. So having said that, why hold back something that you don't know whether or not it's going to help someone? You're taking a risk, but it's a risk that is going to benefit not only you, but you never know how many people it could benefit. So that's like the beginning bit. And then funny enough, when I shelved this book, I had the idea to write another book, which is I've titled The Way of an Eagle. It's 5 principles to help you live the best life that you possibly can live and basically improve your life. They're 5 principles that are my 5 Ps that I call. It's basically, it's a saying as well. So persistently practice prayer with patience and perseverance and you will get through. And I've done it in the form of stories. So everything that I write about is all in stories. It makes it easier for people to read and digest and get more from. So I've done it like that. And then I also have another book that I wrote as well. So 3 in total. And I'm still trying to get the first one out. But the third one
today?
Oh my God.
Tell me about it. My
It's like
goodness.
I'm sleepwalking through life around this guy. It's amazing.
The third book is titled The Heart of an Eagle. So eagle themed, related, and there's reasons behind that too, which you will find out more about when you get a copy
Great
of the
tease,
book.
Jay. Great tease.
Yes. Yeah. But the Heart of an Eagle really talks about 5 more principles to live by and really put into your heart that you like your value system, your character traits, all that sort of stuff. And funny enough, they all are part of an eagle. So an eagle is a special creature, special animal that I believe God created as an example and to be used as sort of an influence in one's life. And I didn't know how much power the eagle has and how much resonance that it would equate to not just my life, but I'm sure it would equal a lot of other people's lives when they do read it. And the illustrations that I do give about the eagle. And then my 4th book that I'm sort of, yes, there's a 4th one. I'm tossing up between the idea of it and I might, who knows, but the idea is around forgiveness and seeking that and what that really looks like. And I'm still working on the title for that one, but that's really the books that I'm working on, and who knows what's going to become of them.
It's amazing, Jay.
I think your 5th book is going to be on time management because we know how you're doing all of this. But we can't thank you enough for your time, Jay. Just amazing to have you here. Such wisdom, particularly for someone only of 24 years, but you have certainly crammed a lot into those years. And we appreciate how open you've been and how much you've shared with us.
We are so grateful. And also too, just to let anyone know if they're struggling with mental health, there's always help and support. And the suicide prevention hotlines are there in Australia. I know you have them too. So for people just to really seek those out if they need them. And Jay, thank you so much for being such an advocate for the mental health community.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I really do appreciate the time that we do share together. And once again, I hope that people get something from my story and from listening to you guys. I think it's powerful. So thank you again.
It's awesome. We're
Thanks again,
changing
Jay.
lives. That's what we like to think of, Jay. Having a good time while doing it. That's why laughter is the best medicine.